Hello, everyone. This is Rachel with the Charlotte Mason Plenary. I'm here with Amy. Amy
Hi.
is a special needs consultant, and we are here to talk to you today about getting started with homeschooling and how really easy and simple it can be. Right, Amy?
Absolutely. This is not nearly as scary as it feels.
Yes, so many people have been asking us questions. And so we wanted to reassure, if you're a new homeschooler or suddenly homeschooler or thinking about homeschooling, how easy and simple it can be. I mean, one of my mottos over at the Plenary is easier, simpler, your way, right? So it's all about making it easier and simpler and customized to you and your family. Um, so I'm gonna throw it over to Amy now because she has a really good analogy about education in a broader term.
Okay, so when we start thinking about education, it's like having a baby. At the end of the day, we want a baby. It doesn't matter how it gets here so long as we have a baby. And it's the same way with educating your child. At the end of the day, we want our child to have an education. But different families are different times are different. And so we have options, just like when we have a baby, there's options. And so our goal here isn't necessarily to slam your public school district or say that homeschooling is the best and only way to go. What we want to do is share with you an option you may not have a lot of knowledge about, maybe as far as just how flexible it can be and just how much it can fit different families. I have one brother who teaches at a private school and one brother who teaches at a public school. So I am fully supportive of all options, but I have loved this option for my family because it supports some needs in ways that we couldn't have using other resources.
Right. At the end of the day, it's all about what's right for your family and your kids, and so what's right for my family may not be right for your family, and you have to make those choices. And, more power to you for choosing what is right for your family.
But we have
But
more options as homeschoolers because we have so much more freedom available to us. We don't have as much legal red tape to deal with. We have more options as far as curriculum choices go.
right. And it does depend on the state that you live in. So you definitely want to check with your state's regulations. But, Amy and I are in Texas and Florida, probably the two, easiest uh, states to homeschool in. So we really have a lot of freedom and we're very, very thankful for that.
But we
Um,
also work with families in states all over the country and in different countries who have very different laws.
right.
And we stay
All
up
over
on
the
that
world. Yes,
so we
definitely.
can support our
Yeah, I
families.
mean, we've done consults for, like you said, all across the U.S., Canada, many other countries across the world, helping people get started homeschooling. But our main message is that yes, you can do this, right? You can do it.
Even in the
Yeah,
most strict states, there are still options and ways of making it fit your family in a way that meets your needs best.
right. So let's talk about what homeschooling looks like. For families that have never homeschooled and are wondering what were their days look like, and also how hard is it, how easy is it, all
Well,
that good stuff.
also what you need too, because I don't. One of the things that I get asked a lot is, well, I work. Can I homeschool? Or, well, I didn't have a stellar education myself. Can I homeschool? Or I have a special needs child. I don't know that I'm qualified to provide the supports that he or she needs. Um, all kinds of questions like that. Or I have really weird schedules. I work nights or I work days or whatever.
Yeah,
So, but I
yeah,
mean, there's so many options. I mean, some people I know they school only on the weekends because they have a weird day schedule. Some, like your family, y'all rotate your week schedule, don't you?
yes. My husband's he works in retail, so he never has the same 2 days off each week. And so our schedule the written schedule I have for our homeschool is day 1, day 2, day 3. And those days may look different depending on our week. And I also use a loop schedule, and loop scheduling really is so wonderful and so
Yes.
powerful. Yeah, it keeps me sane because, you just go to the next thing on the list. When you have a school day or time to fit school in, then you just go to the next thing on the list, and that's how you work through your list. So there's lots of different options. I mean, there's some online schooling. There's, doing it all yourself, creating a custom schedule and a custom curriculum for yourself, which is actually a lot easier than it sounds.
It's a lot easier
Promise
to
you.
implement in your family as well. A lot of times when working with special needs families, I have a tendency to say, I really wouldn't look at a curriculum that is all online or a boxed curriculum where it all comes all in one, because it makes it so much harder to adapt to the needs of your family and the needs of your child. And people think, oh no, I can't make my own schedule or my own resources or own curriculum, or that's going to be a lot of work and a lot of time investment. But the resources that you created, Rachel, are so much easier. And that's why I ended up working with you, is because I started using them and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so easy.
Right, you're talking about the form guides, right?
Yes, they're amazing. I mean, it's an inexpensive PDF that you purchase, and it walks you through how to do the whole thing, and you can adjust for the needs of your family, whether you need something free, you need something that's adapted to a special need, or you need something where you can just click the links and plug things in and go. There's just so many options. One of the things.
Go ahead.
Well, like when we plan hours, I work, and quite honestly, work at the Plenary has gone from maybe a little side job to more of a full-time job. But I am
doing lots of consultations.
Yeah, I'm the primary educator though in our home.
Yeah.
And so I work that by taking your form guide, and over a weekend, I will take several hours or so and just go through and plan out what we're going to use and order the books. It doesn't take long, less than a weekend. And that's our entire year planned at once with only a few hours. And then for the rest of the year, we wake up, we do an hour of group studies together, and I just keep pulling the next chapter in the next book that we're reading. And then they have individual work that they do. And all their electronic passwords have been locked the night before. So until those are done, so they can waste their time if they want to, but they're not going to have any fun with their friends online until they get it done. Yeah. But it allows me to work, but also to homeschool my kids and do it well.
And the form guides, I've shared this a couple of times, but the way I came up with the form guides in the first place, I was going through a crisis, right? It was a very personal family crisis, and so many families find themselves in a crisis right now, in crisis mode. Whether it has to do with COVID or some other family situation or the world in general. You're diving into homeschool. It feels like a crisis, right? You're like, what am I going to do? And so I created this kind of method and schedule for our family because of my own crisis. My mother died suddenly, very, very suddenly, about 9 years ago. And it threw my world into just total chaos and survival mode. She's my best friend. And so the form guides really allowed us to have a schedule that met our needs at that time and to adapt as our needs changed, and to also just bring peace and joy into our home, which is something that you really, really need in a crisis, right?
And support.
Yeah, you need that. You need the joy and the comfort and reducing stress levels.
Right.
And so, that's how the form guides kind of came about. And I'm so glad that you found them to be helpful. And so many families, hundreds of families, I get emails all the time. It's so rewarding to hear how much they help families. But so yes, it can be very easy and adaptable and very low cost or even free, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can do it all yourself for free.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But the
and
guides are not that expensive, and they really simplify so much that if you need a really cheap option for homeschooling, I mean, $24.99, generally speaking, doesn't break the bank. And if it can link you to a bunch of free books, so it's all right there, that's not bad.
and so we also offer consultations, and you have your special needs developmental guide that goes along with the form guide, so that families with special needs have more
Mm-hmm.
support that way if they want to do it themselves.
Right.
But I do consultations, you do consultations, and then we also have like a big premium consultation if somebody wants, hand holding all year long, we can do that too. But you don't, you can do it yourself. We're big proponents of saying, yes, you can do this, you can do this.
And the consultations are a really great option for families who they're working and they feel so overwhelmed and they're like, I just don't even have time to even figure out what I'm going to be doing for the school year, let alone how I would homeschool. Get the consultation. We do it for you. That way you don't have to.
Super easy.
Yeah.
So we also wanted to talk a little bit about how homeschooling is different from remote learning, which a lot of kids have been doing lately. The public schools went to an online system, and how, homeschooling isn't necessarily like that unless you choose an all online curriculum. And there are some out there, but we don't recommend them.
Especially not if you have a special needs child of any type, because you just cannot adapt something that's already all in one. It just ends up frustrating the child and the parent usually.
Right.
So.
And it's just, in my opinion, too much screen time, the kid just sitting there all day on this. Yeah. We like books, right? Books
Yes,
and
we love
books. And getting outside and doing nature study and doing folk songs and artist study and all those things that bring joy to your homeschool.
Well, my favorite part is having conversations with my kids, because we can read a book. Maybe, it's all right. I remember a specific one. I was reading Arabian Nights with my daughter, and she was 9, and we were reading this big, thick adult version of it because she just loved stories. And at the end of the story, she says, Mom, and that's why you make sure the person you marry loves you and that you love the person you marry, because otherwise they might turn your legs to stone and the people of your kingdom to fish. I'm like, that's exactly right, kiddo.
The power of fairy tales, right? I love it.
They offer such wonderful conversations with our children. And I mean, Charlotte Mason wrote about education right after World War I. And she was talking about how the reason they had gotten into the fix that they did with World War I was because they were focusing on teaching facts and skills, but they weren't teaching the humanities. There's a meme that goes around all the time about how when you teach STEM or STEAM subjects without humanities, you get Spider-Man villains. And when you teach theater without humanities, you get Batman villains. Well, they're not wrong. I mean, Germany was teaching a lot of those same kinds of things without the humanities and ended up with World War I and World War II.
Right. Yeah.
And so these conversations they really help us learn to live as people, not just know how to do reading, writing, and math, but educate the whole person.
Yeah, she was talking about utilitarian education versus, like you said, humanities. And and we call that the grand discussion, right? In the Charlotte Mason world, the grand discussion of after the child narrates the lesson or the reading, then we discuss and we talk about the important points of the lesson or the reading. And it's one of my favorite parts too. It's one of the reasons I love Charlotte Mason. But also, what are some other kind of specifics about the Charlotte Mason method that may be different from some of the other methods, or just traditional schooling?
Less time schooling.
Yeah,
short lessons that fit within their attention span. So instead of on the computer trying to figure out, how am I going to get this kid to keep paying attention to this lesson that just went on for 30 minutes when I lost him after 5?
Yeah, short lessons. We love it. And then also, the thing that really drew me to Charlotte Mason is her very first principle that children are born persons. And to me, that really goes to the heart of what education could be and should be, that we respect children in the same way that we would respect other adults or what have you. And that children, they're not empty slates, they're not empty vessels to be filled. They really have their own thoughts and ideas and personalities, and they come to this world with so many gifts, and we just have to allow them and help them to grow and blossom with those gifts.
How many kids do you know, or even yourself when you were a child, who said, well, it doesn't matter, I'm just a kid, nobody wants to know what I think or what my feelings are or my opinion? It happens. It's because we've forgotten what it was like to be kids in some ways. Play is important for parents too. Think about the movie Book, where Peter goes back to Neverland and he's forgotten how to play. Play is important for inspiring us and helping us rest and not to be so stressed. And playing with our kids is yet another way to relate to them.
And that's what homeschooling can look like. It can be so restful and so joyful and so fulfilling and rewarding. And we want to get that. Okay, now, can you have hard days? Yes.
Yes.
We all have hard days. We all have those days that are a little rough, but you also have the good days too. And they're so, so worth it.
And if it's a hard day and you use a loop schedule, or you have this ability to adapt, you can say, you know what? We're done for the day. We're just having a hard day. We'll do work tomorrow.
Yeah. Or bring in some of those joy subjects.
Yeah.
Yes. I always say in my house, one of our favorite joy subjects is the folk songs or singing. And so almost every time we do math, we end up singing a folk song because we bring in that joy subject to help de-stress us from the math, from the math lesson. So we sing a lot in our house.
Yes. And you can also play games too. So maybe it's a tough day and you don't want to get to some of those harder, more focused, individualized type subjects. And so you spend time playing games or singing or listening to a story or something like that. And that's okay.
And, it is okay. And it's okay not to do it all. It's okay not to do it all every single day or even right at first. Start slow, start with just a few subjects and get your confidence going, and then add on to after that, and slowly build up. And also, we want to talk a little bit about DeSchooling as well. So if you're coming from the public school, you want to take some time, right, to just DeSchool, and tell us what DeSchooling means a little bit.
So DeSchooling is where you basically will take a step back and just enjoy living and being with your kids and your family. And it's really important because when you make a shift like that in your schedule, you're coming from a remote learning or from a school setting, you're shifting to a whole new way of learning. And sometimes kids, when they transition, they really need to have a separation between the two so that they can completely transition how they relate to learning, especially if you've got a kid who's been frustrated. One of mine had remote activities and it was really hard for him, and he didn't. It didn't go well. And so trying to create that separation of, hey, this is something different. This is something new. That's really important. Now, one of the things, though, that people do ask us a lot when it comes to deschooling, and then also this flexibility that you have with homeschooling, is how do my kids stay up with what they are learning in the schools? Or what about my kid's IEP and things like that?
Right.
But most homeschool families we've had the pleasure of working with, a lot of times we see kids advancing beyond where they were supposed to. And a lot of that is because you have the ability to tailor to your child's needs, and you're also not having to waste time with standing in line to go to the bathroom, standing in line to go to lunch, waiting for the teacher to address this kid over here who keeps causing problems all day long. Right. Probably because they're having some kind of a learning issue or something. So by being in an individualized setting, those kinds of concerns aren't really huge concerns anymore because it's so individualized. And the way with an IEP, if you have the opportunity to individualize for your child, it's possible that at some point they won't even need the IEP.
Yeah, because kids can really take off, and grow and learn so much faster and better because it's tailored to them and their learning styles and their needs. Right. So that's one of the benefits of homeschooling. Yeah. So don't be afraid of falling behind. Definitely. Okay. So now you work with special needs families in particular. You're a special needs consultant over at Charlotte Mason Plenary, just in case anybody didn't know. So, today's Facebook Live is more about like getting started in a general sense, but we're going to do another live on Thursday, right? Just about special needs families. So we definitely wanted to let everybody know that if you have special needs concerns, that on Thursday, did we say 3 o'clock? I think. Well, we'll figure out the time later. We'll let you know. But on Thursday, we'll do a special for special needs families, right?
Yes, and that will be more covering the nuts and bolts of special needs homeschooling. So that's where you're going to be able to ask more specific questions and get more specific answers on different types of needs and accommodations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Amy. I appreciate you joining us today, and we will be back on Thursday. So, if you have any questions for Amy, let us know, and we'll address them on Thursday, or you join us live and put your questions in the comments. And yeah, we'll see you then.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.